Welcome to Code with Shaz and another exciting video. Today we're going to take a look at very important data structures in Python, tuples and lists. So this video will show you how tuples and lists work, what are their differences, and how do we use them in the real world scenario. So let's get started. A Python list is an ordered, mutable, and heterogeneous collection of items. Lists are defined using square brackets and items are separated by the commas. So key characteristics of lists are they are ordered. It means items in a list have a defined order and you can access them using the index. Lists are always mutable. It means you can add, remove, or modify items after the list is created. And lists are always heterogeneous, means it can contain items of different data types. For example, integers, strings, floats, booleans, and other lists as well. A list is always indexed. It means each item in the list has an index starting from 0 for the first one. And list, since it is indexed, you can always use a slicing operation in the list to get a new list. So we will see how the slicing operation works. So you can see this is my list and it is a heterogeneous list. I have multiple different data types in my list. And let me run the program and you can see that the program prints my list. Now let's see if I want to grab item number 3 from here, which is 3, and the index would be 0, 1, 2. Index would be 2. Since it's 0 based index, I need to mention with the square brackets number 2 and it will print 3 for me. So if I run this program and you can see that it printed 3 for me. So similar way you can grab the items based on their index. For example, if I want to grab item number apple, and the index would be 0, 1, 2, 3. Index will be 3, so I can use the same index operation to grab it. Now index are also negative index base as well. So for example, let's say I want to grab the last item. The way I would do it, I will use -1 and this will give me my last item. Let's run the program and you can see I get true. Now let's say I want to get banana here. I will use index number 3. So this is -1, -2, -3. And I'll run the program again and you can see I grab banana. So you can grab this way, you can go forward from the list or you can go back from the list using indexing operation. Just like an index can get a single item from the list, you can use something called a slice to get several items from the list. A slice is basically typed like this. You have integer before the colon and integer after the colon, and this is the way you can grab multiple values from the list. So one means it starts from so one is the first index, which will be 0, 1. So it will start from index 1, and then 4 means 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But anything before, so for example, if it is 4, it means 4 minus 3. So it will be grabbing from index 1 to 3. So it will be 1, 2, and 3. This is what it will be basically grabbing for us. So let me run this program and you can see that it's grabbing 2, 3, and apple. So let's say I want to grab everything before apple. I want to grab this information. So the way I would do it, I would just use index 3. So you can see here 0, 1, 2, 3. So it will be 3 minus 2. So I'll be grabbing this information. If I print this list now, you can see that I'm grabbing 1, 2, 3. And let's say I want to grab everything after 3, which will be all these items here. I will use same thing, but I will move the colon after the 3. So what basically it means is that grab everything after index 3. So it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3. So everything will be here. It'll be grabbed for me. So now if I run this program again, you can see I'm grabbing apple, banana, 4.5, and true. So this is the slicing operation, which is very handy in Python lists. So since you know that lists are mutable and we can modify the items on list, let's say I want to modify item number 3. The way I do it, I will just say my list, and then I will mention what the item I want to modify, which will be 2, and what name I want to modify it to. Let's say I want to modify it to cherry, for example, and then let me print my list. I would say print and then the list, and then you will see that item number 2, which is 0, 1, 2. This will be modified. Now let's talk about adding the items in the list. Let's say I want to append an item in the list. I would use an append function here. Let's say I want to add grape, and then let's say I want to print my list here, print my list, and you can see that in the end I'm adding grape, item name grape in the end. Now let's say I want to add another item, but in the middle of my list. Let's say I want to add something here, which will be index 0, 1, and I want to add just before index 2. The way I would do it, I use the insert function, and I would mention the which index I want to insert, which will be index 2. Let's say I want to insert orange here, and then let's say if I print my list, let me clear everything. You can see that between 2 and 3 I've added orange. Now let's say I want to remove something from the list. Let's say I want to remove the apple from the list. The way I would do it, I will use a function called remove. What remove does, basically you can see that it removes first occurrence of a value from the list. So let's say I want to remove the first occurrence of apple. I would just say this one, and then I will print it, and you can see that my the apple is removed from my list now. So now let's see if I want to remove an item, but I also want to return it back, return it back from my list. So how would I do it? So I would use something called mylist.pop. Pop, what it does, it removes and return as item of an index. So for example, the default is the last one. So let's say I want to remove 0, 1, 2, 3. I want to remove this one, right? So I would add 2 here. And what it will do, it will remove this item from me and also return it back. So let me do another my list here, and you can see what happens. Let me run the program, and you can see that this statement returned removed 3, which is not anymore in the list, and I also returned it back to me that this item was removed. So there are other multiple methods you can use in the list. So for example, let me show you. You can see that you have a sort function or method. You can have append method, which we already saw. You can have remove, insert, and you can have multiple index, pop, count, copy. You can use all these functions in the list. So let's say you want to grab what is the length of your list. You can use the length function here, and this will return you the length of your list. So for example, I can use this to grab what is the length of my. So you can see the length of my list is 7. Let's try one more function. Let's try the count function. Count function, what it does, it counts the occurrences of a specific element. So let me try count here. So I will remove this list and then try count. And then let's try to count how many times item 3 comes up in the list. So let me try this. I'll clear the list. As you can see from the print here, element 3 comes one time. So let's say if I want to add more, let's say I want to add it 2 more times. So let's try the count now. Let's try to execute it now. And you can see that element 3 comes in 3 times. So this is the count function. So let's quickly recap what list is. List basically is an ordered list of items. It means items in the list have a defined order and you can access them using their indexes. List is always mutable. It means you can always add, remove, or modify the items in the list. List supports indexing and slicing. Since indexing is supporting, it means each element of the list has an index. You can use slicing operations on it. And as far as unique elements are concerned, lists allows duplicates. For example, you see here we have multiple 3 items, and it means duplicates are allowed. And the use case for list is that when frequent modifications are required and you want to store multiple items which are heterogeneous in nature in a single variable. So let's see a tuple now. A tuple basically is an ordered but immutable and heterogeneous collection of items. Tuples are defined using parentheses instead of square brackets like we saw in the list, and items are separated by the commas. So key characteristics of tuples are they are ordered. Items in a tuple have defined order and you can access them using their indexes. Since indexing is allowed, you can also use slicing operations on the tuples. But tuples are immutable. It means once a tuple is created, you cannot add, remove, or modify its elements. Tuples are heterogeneous. It means a tuple can contain multiple items of different data types like integers, strings, booleans, and other tuples as well. And each tuple is an indexed item, which means each item in the tuple has an index starting from 0 for the first item. So let's see our first tuple. Let's see, I have created my tuple here. It's the same heterogeneous list, but you can see that instead of a square bracket, I'm using parentheses here. So let me print this, and let me first save it, and then let's print the list here, and you can see it's my same list of the elements. Now let's see if when you want to get a single list of items in tuple, you cannot create something like this. For example, if you run this, you can see that let me print a type here, print type of my tuple, and you can see if I print it again, and you can see now since I'm using 1 without a comma, and it will list as an integer, For me to declare this other tuple, I need to add a comma here in the end. So once I add a comma and I save it and I print it, now you can see that this becomes a class of tuple. So make sure if you are creating a single list of item in a tuple, you have to add the comma. Now if I add multiple line items here, for example, this one, then I do not need a comma in the end. Let's say I execute again, and then you see my class is still a tuple class, and I do not need the comma in the end. So if I can just simply remove it if it is multiple items of tuples. So for accessing tuples, I can use similar function that I used before. Let's say I want to access the first element of my tuple. I can use this print my tuple, and then same indexing operation I can use. And you can see that if I save it and run it again, you can see I'm accessing item number one. Same thing, I can access multiple items here using the indexes. And it also supports same negative integers. For example, I can say -1. And if I print it again, you can see that I will get item number 3. So basically it's the same list, and tuple support same forward indexing and backward indexing. So I can use same slicing operations as I used in list in tuple same way. So for example, let's say I want to use, I'm going to grab the item from 2 to apple. I want to grab these three. So I'm going to use same slicing technique I use in list. So I'm going to use my tuple, and then I'm going to use I'm going to use indexes here, and then I'm going to use 1, 2, 4. So this will give me item starting from item 1, which is index 1 from here, until 4, which is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Will give me these three elements. So let me print this out, and you can see that I'm grabbing what 2, 3, and apple. This is the complete list I added before. So let's say I want to grab everything before apple. I'll do the same thing. I will grab information like this, and I will add 3, and you can see that I'm grabbing 1, 2, 3. Now let's say I want to grab everything after 3. I want to grab all this information. I'll do the same thing. I will move the column after the 3, and if I print again, you can see that I'm grabbing apple, banana, 4.4, and true. So this is the same slicing operation uses as the list use tuple uses. So what's the difference between list and tuple is immutability. So for example, in list we were able to update or modify an item, but in tuple we cannot. So let me see if I'm able to modify item number 2. I want to modify number 2 to cherry, and let's see what happens. So basically I want to add index to 0, 1, 2. So this item I want to update. That's what will happen. And you can see that tuple object does not support item assignment. So that's the difference between tuple. In tuples, I cannot add, modify, or remove the elements. But what I can do in tuples is that I can concatenate tuples to create a new tuple. So let's say I want to add 2 more items like grape and oranges in my new tuple. So the way I do it, I will create a new tuple here, and then I will use my current one plus, I will use parentheses, and then I will add grape, and then I will add orange, and I will print it. So I will print my new tuple, and I will save it. You can see that. So now you can see that I'm able to concatenate 2 more items in my current tuple to create a new tuple. So this is a new tuple. So I'm not using the old ones. And tuples has other function as well. So let's explore some of them. So you can see that if I do this, you can see I have a count function. You can also use length function here, and you can use index function. So let's try the length. What is the length of our new tuple? So if I use this and I print, and let's see what will I print now. So let's see, and you can see that I have 9 items in my tuple. So let's now use a count function in the my tuple. So let's say I want to count how many occurrences of item 2 appears in my tuple. So I will use print my tuple and then count, and then I will mention 2 here, which is the item I want to find. And let me run the program again. You can see it shows up 1 time. Let's say I want to add another 2, 3 items here. Let's see how much the count is now. So if I add it, you can see item 2 appears 4 times. So let's quickly recap tuple. Tuple basically, in the order, it is an ordered list of items, and each item in a tuple have a defined order, and you can access them using their indexes. But tuple is immutable. It means once tuple is created, you cannot add, remove, or modify its element. You can, however, concatenate tuples with other items to create a new tuple. So tuples also support indexing and slicing, just like lists, and it allows duplicates. And use case of tuple is that when you require immutability, for example, you want to make sure that your list cannot be modified or added or removed, then you can use tuple. So let's compare tuple and list side by side. You can see that in terms of ordering, tuple and list, they are both ordered list of items. And you can see tuple is immutable. It means you cannot update, modify it. While list is mutable, you can update, add, or remove it. As far as indexing is concerned, you can see that both tuple and list, they support indexing and slicing. And if you see tuple and list, they both allow duplicates. And in the use case, you can see that when immutability is required, it means you don't want to update that element, item of the element, then you can use tuple. Or if you require frequent modifications, you can use a list. So let's take a real world scenario. Let's say we are building a student course management system here, and you can see that this is our sample data. The student number, you can see that is this one. So student number is always unique. It cannot change. You can see that we have student name and we have different subjects. So student name, obviously we can change it, and subjects using students can add or either remove it or modify the subject. So how would we represent this data in our data structure that we learned in tuples and lists? So you can see that this student number is which is we cannot change it. This will be represented using tuple because we cannot modify it, and these two things we can represent as a list. So let's try to implement this system here. So I have created a file called student.py, and let me represent a student ID. Student ID will be represented by, let's say, since it's a tuple, we have to use the braces here. And let's say the student name is STU12345. Since this is a single record, we need to add a comma in the end. So this will represent our student number, which will be represented as a tuple. Now let's say I have a bunch of subjects that we need to add to the students. So this will be represented by a list called subjects. And let me add the list will be inside the brackets here. Let's add three subjects here. Let's add math, science, and let's add history here. So this is our list, right? So let's say if I want to combine the two together, and how would I combine it? So what I can do, I can combine call student records, which will be representing both tuple and a list. So the way I represent it, I'll be using STU in inside the commas. STU 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is my, since this is one record, I need to represent like this. And let's add the name now. Name will be John Doe. And then let's add our subjects here. So basically we can just copy this whole thing here, and this will be our subjects. So let me try to print it now. Let's say I want to print student records. Let me run this program. Let's see what we print. You can see that this is our data structure, both representing tuple and a list. So let's say I want to add a subject in the end. How would I add it? Because you can see that this list is mutable and we should be able to add in the end. So what I'll do, I will add student records. I will add, so the index is 0, 1, 2. This is the index. So I will add here 2 dot, I need to append it and append art, let's say. And then let me print this again. And let's see what happens now. So I'm going to add print it, and you can see that our subject art is added in the end of the subject list. So in the real world applications, you can think of this as a database application where you can basically have this single row representing a student record, and the lists are, you can represent this specific whole thing in in a list. For example, this is one row, and this will be together will be a multiple items in a list. So that's how you can represent this in a real world scenario. So let's say you're building a real world application. Basically, you can capture the data from database inside this list, and you can represent it in multiple list items. So I hope this video was entertaining for you and you learned a very important data structure in Python, lists and tuple. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel, Code with Shaz, and always don't forget to give a thumbs up to my videos and watch out for the next one. Thank you.